and national media outlets to call Denver a sanctuary city. So now let me ask you, would a city employee be fired for communicating with anyone from the EPA?
Right now, Congresswoman, our policy is we don't ask people's status.
Would any city employee be fired for communicating and coordinating, talking with an agent from the EPA, a federal employee?
Not to my knowledge, Congresswoman.
What about Health and Human Services? Would they get fired for talking with someone from Health and Human Services?
And not to my knowledge, Congresswoman.
So they would only be fired for talking to federal law enforcement officers.
No, that's incorrect, Congresswoman.
This is an ordinance
city employees do.
Denver passed in 2017, Mr. Mayor.
Our city employees do, in fact, communicate with ICE. We do coordinate on multiple things with ICE. For instance, if there is a violent criminal warrant in the city, we pursue that.
We're talking
together.
Before the warrants, Mr. Mayor. There are issues happening before warrants are issued, and local law enforcement officers are unable to coordinate because there is no warrant. And your ordinance says that a city employee would be fired for communicating with federal law enforcement. So you, Mayor, for 600 days, have you ever called for that ordinance to be repealed?
We are not unable to coordinate with ICE right now. We are in communication with ICE right now.
Only if there is a warrant, but I'm talking prior to the warrant.
We wouldn't have a reason to coordinate.
Because you don't know if they're illegal, because you are unable to coordinate until there is a warrant. So that's why this ordinance needs to be repealed. So now the 600 days, there's been no time to ask for this to be repealed. You did have a newcomer's playbook, 25 pages. You had time to put that together. And you had time to agree with the city council to authorize up to $2 million to pay Joe Biden's former lawyer, his law firm, to help cover your ass for Denver's sanctuary city policies for this hearing, correct?
Thank you, Congresswoman. We have counsel.
Did you authorize that spending?
We have counsel to support this committee's investigation into any documents.
Yes or no,
man. That
That's
is a
why I
year-long
can't stand these
contract
damn
for the
meetings.
13,000 city employees.
And your budget
you may
is
request documents from.
seriously declining. Denver Magazine reported that Denver has spent $7.5 million on shipping illegal aliens to other destinations. Mayor Adams, did Mayor Johnston ever coordinate with you and tell you that he was shipping illegal aliens to your city?
Look at P. Ray in the back,
we coordinated in communication around the entire asylum seeker issue in our cities.
So I've heard that Denver crime went down. Well, Aurora's crime went up because you were also shipping them to Aurora. And we have documentation that I don't have time to discuss here in this hearing that proves you were shipping illegal aliens to Aurora. Their crime was increasing while you were hiding under laws that you will not demand be repealed, ordinance from your city. And then crime was going up from Trinidad gangs vandalizing apartment owners. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I hope that we can get this.
We have a 5-minute rule, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, gentlelady's time's expired. Chair recognizes Ms. Norton from Washington, D.C.
Oh, Lord.
There have been a lot of talk today about these cities and their, in my view, principal decision not to respond to extrajudicial ICE detainers. But I would like to back up and talk about these detainers, what these detainers really are.
Make sure you guys hit that like, subscribe button.
ICE to unconstitutionally hold someone.
I'm not really going to be talking. I'm doing all listening and writing down.
Enforcing ICE detainers is also expensive, often results in mistakenly holding U.S. citizens and undermines public safety. It diverts resources from protecting the local community to carry out the federal government's job of immigrant enforcement. Mayor Johnston, what challenges do ICE detainers represent to your law enforcement and city resources?
Thank you, Congresswoman. I think that was to me, right? Sometimes
that's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Congresswoman. I think
that's what I'm saying. That's so
I appreciate to describe what Denver currently does in terms of what coordination looks like and what it doesn't, which is if we get a detainer request, if we have someone in our custody that ICE would like to get access to, what we do is we provide them a notification of release. And so if that person will be released from our custody, we notify them of the time and the date when they will be released. So ICE, if they choose to, could pick that person up. We have done that 1,226 times over the last 7 years. And that has enabled ICE, when they choose to be able to bring someone into custody. What we do not do is hold someone beyond their release date.
If a man really hated ads, here's what he would do.
Oh,
Day
Lord.
1, he would install Pi on his computer without
Hold on,
spending a
hold on.
dime because it's 100% free. Day 2, he realizes how clean and clutter-free his browsing experience has been since he got Pi. He doesn't have to deal with annoying cookie pop-ups or targeted ads.
Sorry,
Day 3.
my bad.
Types of detainers.
Mayor Johnson, how about for Chicago?
So thank you for that question. And for Chicago, again, our top priority with the Welcoming City Ordinance is to ensure maximum safety. The type of coordination that happens between our local law enforcement and our communities is paramount to building trust and keeping our communities safe. The ordinance, as well as the state law, the Illinois Trust Act, which was passed with bipartisan support and signed by the Republican governor, Bruce Rauner, we do not permit our local law enforcement from engaging in any federal matters. With a criminal warrant, our city and our state will cooperate with the federal government, but without a criminal warrant, our local law enforcement focuses in on local issues to keep the people of Chicago safe.
Mayor Wu, how would fulfilling ICE detainers detract from public safety in your city?
Thank you, Congresswoman, for
You look
hosting
so
us,
stupid,
first of all,
bro.
in your
Like,
district.
why you got that on your head?
We hear every day
You're doing
from
too much.
Boston residents, a city that is 28% people who were born in another country, that the trust and feeling that they know they can call 911 when they need help, or if they have information to solve a crime and police need that help, that they feel comfortable in doing so. And so our policy in Boston is that regardless of your background or immigration status, you have access to our libraries. We want you to take your kids to school. We want you to be part of our community. And also, regardless of immigration status, if you commit a crime, if you do harm in the community, you will be held accountable.
It is critical to the safety of Americans that cities have the ability to decide what is in the best interests of their people. Mayors and local enforcement
Exactly. They proved
know
it last
their
night,
cities
Patrick.
best.
Trump did amazing, by the way.
I would yield any time remaining to the ranking member.
I just want to underscore what the gentlelady has said. Local government knows best how local law enforcement works. And cooperating with ICE is part of that, but they can't be a substitute for ICE doing its own job, which is a federal responsibility. Thank you for yielding.
Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you guys are
Before I
new.
recognize Mr. Jordan, I believe Ms. Boward has a unanimous consent.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to submit to the record multiple local news articles referencing Denver's sanctuary policies, including the newcomers playbook written by Mayor Adams and the budget, which shows millions and millions of dollars of the Denver city budget cut.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair now recognizes Mr. Jordan from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor
Oh,
Johnson,
snap.
Who's Abraham Gonzalez?
Thank you, Congressman. He is a individual that was released from the county jail on Friday in the city and county of Denver.
That's all you know about him?
I do know that he was facing charges that the
Venezuelan gang member arrested by Border Patrol on September 20th, 2023, released into the country by the Biden administration. A few months later, he's arrested in your city, charged with aggravated assault. On March 11th, 2024, he's charged with motor vehicle theft, stole a car, and then on March 20th, 2024, Mr.
What is
Gonzalez
going
charged
on
with
here?
felony menacing. 6 days after that last charge, ICE sends you a detainer, which includes an administrative warrant. Basically, it says if you're going to release this bad guy, this gang member who allegedly stole a car, menaced people, and assaulted people, give us a 48-hour heads up. Is that right? That refresh your memory?
I do know about the detainer request. I do know that we provided a notification of release.
What kind of notice did you give ICE when you released him?
We
Yeah,
gave a
what kind of
notification.
notice?
I'm not sure how long in
1
advance it
hour.
was. I do know
1
that
hour.
I do know that
Gave
there
him
were
a 1
six.
hour notice. And you
Bullshit.
released him 5 days ago.
You
right?
lying, man.
Why not give him more heads up? Actually, let's put the slide up. Let's see what it says here. But let's put the slide up. This is what the Denver Sheriff's Department, it's kind of hard to see, so I'll read it. It says Denver Sheriff Department ICE notification being released to the streets. I simply said, we want just release him to us. You release him to the streets.
Why
not
ain't he
release him to
going
ICE?
back to his country?
Thank you.
Why
What
he
we've done,
going
and we
back,
do this
like, to
regularly, we've done 1,226 of these, is we notify
I'm
ICE.
asking about one. I'm not asking about the 1,200.
I
I'm asking about
Then his ass
Mr.
up,
Abraham
Tom,
Gonzalez,
today.
who's a gang member from Venezuela, stole a car, assaulted someone. You had him in your custody for how long?
I know that we released him.
345 days you had him in custody. And I said, hey, can
That's
you
less
give us
than a
48
year,
hours
man.
heads up?
I don't
You
know.
gave him 1 hour notice.
Mr. Congressman, we notified them of release. There were 6 ICE agents present when he was released, so they had enough time to respond and to be present.
Respond where?
To the jail where we released him from. So we released him we notified them of the release time. When we notify them of release, they come to the jail facility to pick them up. They're
Why
still
didn't you say that's not what you said. You said you release him to the streets. Did you release him to the streets? You release him to ICE.
What we do, sir, is
Right.
we release him from our county jail and we coordinate with ICE on that release time and release date so that ICE can come and pick them up from that location.
Oh, is
Pick
it
him
our
up where? In the
fault?
parking lot?
Yes, sir. They're on the facility
Guess
property.
what happened in the parking lot?
I know, sir. I've reviewed the video. So I looked at it. I've talked to the sheriff last night.
One of the ICE officers got assaulted, didn't he?
I've reviewed the video,
They had
sir.
to tase the guy, didn't they?
Would you like me to answer, sir?
No, I'd like you to answer. Did they tase him?
I know that there were 6 officers that had multiple tasers. I saw the
Don't
So they
get
had
on
6
video.
officers. If you keep him in
Lame.
the facility and they come in the facility and get him, does it take 6 officers? Probably takes 2, doesn't it?
So we've been doing these, as I mentioned, 1,224 times, 1,226 times. This is the first time I've been made aware of there's been an incident like this. So I reached out to ICE after I saw the video. I've
Get 'em,
coordinated with their
Jim.
team and offered to sit down and see if there are
it's a
procedures
simple
we
que-
can change
It's a
to
simple
make sure this
question.
works smoothly.
It's a simple question. You can release him in the parking lot, give ICE 1 hour notice, and they got to send 6 officers to arrest this guy. Or you can say, hey, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna hold him. You come in and bring 2 officers in, and you turn him over there. Why not do it that way?
There
We have
you
a
go.
city
You know why you don't do it that way?
That's simple.
We have a city
That's
ordinance
common
that
Because we're a
sense.
sanctuary city.
There
This
you
is the whole
go.
point.
No, sir, I disagree with you.
Oh, okay.
Because I'll tell you why.
There you go.
If you talk about sanctuary as a definition of shielding people from law enforcement, we do not do that. What we do is provide services. In this context, what we
You
did
just-
is we coordinated the
An
release.
officer got assaulted because of your policy, which says we're going to release him to, in your words, not mine, to the streets. They have to arrest him in the parking lot. They bring 6 officers when they could have had 1 or 2 just come in your facility, in the jail, and take the guy there. But you won't do it that way.
I've
Nope.
seen the video. I've reached out to
don't
ICE.
care if
I've
you've seen the
offered to
video. I
sit
know the
down and
facts
coordinate
too.
on strategies. If we need to make
Make sure
adjustments
you
to
guys
what
get
we do on
those likes
releases,
up,
we'll do
man.
that.
Hit
This
that
is
like
the first
subscribe
time
button, guys.
in the 1,226 releases.
You know,
I've
I read
produced.
your
Killing
written
this
testimony
guy.
last night. I read your written testimony last night.
I can't wait till you get to
4.5
Brendan
pages.
Johnson, boy.
And you used the word safe, safer, or safety 13 times. Talking about my job is to protect the safety of the people in Denver. We prioritizing making sure everyone in our community is safe. That's a lie. Because it was not safer
Absolutely.
for the ICE agents who are part of your community. No way was it safer. The safest thing to do is to say, ICE, we got him in custody. Come here, we're
Come
releasing
get
him. We held
him, right? Come
45
get
days.
his
We can't hold him a
ass.
second longer. We
That's
can't wait
all
for
you
you to come
gotta
inside
do.
the building. We
It's
got to let him
literally
go.
that
So you have to arrest him in the
simple.
parking lot. That is how stupid sanctuary policies are
Literally, though.
and what they mean to the
Come get
community
his
that you put
ass.
at risk and to the ICE officers the ICE
Mr.
officer who was assaulted. And they had to use a taser on the. It's not good.
Mr. Chairman,
Time, Mr.
Five-
Chairman.
5
I have a
minutes is
unanimous
up.
Consent request.
Gentlemen's time's expired. Chair recognizes Mr. Lynch from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Conley. I want to thank the panelists for your willingness to come before the committee and help us with our work. You know, I truly believe that if we had a rational and comprehensive immigration policy in this country, if we competently regulated the flow of immigration, if we knew the purpose and circumstances of each immigrant's arrival here, and if every immigrant knew what was expected of them when they arrived, I honestly and truly believe that immigration could be the greatest blessing for our country. Look at our world rivals, China and Russia. No one is trying to sneak into China, sneak into Russia. It's because
Here
of
we
what we
go.
offer here as a nation. there is a substantive issue that's at play here, and I want to address that. So under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the Constitution, it provides Congress, and I'll read the section here, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. And Clause 18 further provides that Congress has the power to make all laws that shall be necessary and proper to execute its enumerated powers, including immigration. So it appears that Congress has taken up that responsibility in the Immigration and Nationality Act, which they exercise under constitutional writ. On the other hand, we have local so-called sanctuary city laws that at times, so those sanctuary cities laws tend to address local cooperation with federal authorities in your jurisdictions, within your cities. And sometimes it does appear that the sanctuary city laws are defending against the congressional grant of authority to operate in that area. Now, you all, as mayors, and I ask this of the entire panel, you deal with this every single day, and we've heard some of it in your testimony eloquently.
Mhm.
How do we, as lawmakers, we're struggling with this right now. There's a tension between that authority of Congress to act under Article 1 of the Constitution, and then your responsibility, nobly taken, to provide a safe environment for the residents and
I don't know
visitors to your
what's
city.
wrong with these sanctuary
How do
city
we
mayors. All you have to
reconcile,
do is literally
and I'm asking you
keep
for
the city
advice.
safe.
You have a great
Make it
perspective on
affordable.
this.
What's the problem?
How do you
How are you going to do
how
that
do
when
we
you got
together
criminal illegals
reconcile
running
the
around the
tension
damn
between
city?
those two operating systems, grants of power? And I'd welcome any
There you
advice
go,
you
Rose.
have on
Hate
that,
crime
because that's
is
what
legal
we
again.
are struggling with up here in terms of trying to come up with a comprehensive
She looks insane, by the
immigration
way.
policy that addresses
She ready
all
to
of these
receive that
concerns.
mark.
Mayor Johnson?
Congressman, I'm happy to start the response. We obviously believe there is a federal system that has federal obligations and state and local obligations. We think, as Mayor Wu said, that our officers are uniquely prepared, trained, and ready to enforce local law and to keep
What
our
up,
city safe. We
Maurice?
want to focus on that. We do not have the capacity for
word,
our law
guys? Welcome
enforcement
to
to
the
be
live.
doing federal immigration
Make sure you
enforcement,
guys hit that like,
but we
subscribe,
want to be partners in making sure we're
guys.
pulling
Please.
violent criminals off the street. We do that now.
It's
We've done it in the
free.
past. We'll keep doing it. But we think the capacity for the federal government to focus on.
But what I'm trying to point at is this. So the current president of the United States, Donald Trump, rode into office on this issue. On this issue. He put people in fear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a state that's 2,400 miles from the border. We're going to spend $1.5 billion on providing services and housing and everything to people who are in our state unlawfully. He got into office on that issue. So the costs to democracy are massive. It is now threatening our democracy because we have mishandled this issue.
That's right.
So we need to get together on this and turn immigration, like I say, into the greatest blessing that this country has, and not something that people are afraid of. That's the challenge.
May I, Congressman?
Please.
This
All
may
right,
be the
guys.
last
Oh, my
blue.
friend.
This may be the last blue dress I'm wearing this month. It's going to be green from here on out as we celebrate
I understand.
Irish American heritage back at home. Please pass comprehensive immigration law
All right, guys,
that is
I'm
consistent,
start putting
compassionate,
cats up, too.
that will make our jobs possible, and we would so appreciate that partnership.
I hear you. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes.
Chair, I have a unanimous consent request.
I didn't. I'm sorry.
I have unanimous.
Here we go. Here we go.
Proceed.
Okay, I'd like to seek unanimous consent to enter into the record thousands of DHS agents shift to deportation instead of drugs, weapons, and human trafficking. That is February 2025 USA Today.
Without
Also,
objection, so ordered.
Parents pull kids from childcare as immigration fears hit U.S. youngest.
Without objection, so
That
ordered.
doesn't even make sense.
Chair-
Finally, an 11-year-old
Why would they
girl
do
in
that?
Texas died by suicide after she was bullied about her family's immigration status, her mother says.
Without objection to order,
This
Chair
is so
recognizes
dumb. You're
Dr.
gaslighting
Gosar from
right now,
Arizona.
bro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
She's
Mayor
gaslighting.
Wu,
Nobody want to hear that
I'll
shit.
be showing up at your house tomorrow with my bags at 5 o'clock. Leave your doors unlocked, please. What are you making for dinner? Because I expect a warm meal and a balanced diet. Now, I'm going to need a car, and please leave me some cash because I'm going to need to go to my doctor's appointment on Friday. That would be to Mr. Mayor Johnson. Now, I don't want to sleep on the couch, so put me up at a luxury hotel. You're the Mayor Johnson. Obviously, you wouldn't like this because you don't know me, right? You know nothing about me. You might not like that. Sanctuary cities offer this kind of hope, this false hope to illegal aliens
There you
by
go,
saying
man.
that very thing. Stay with me. We don't
them people
tell
back where they
anybody
belong.
that you break our laws. Now, thank you. You've made the United States complicit and one of the largest purveyors of human trafficking in the world. Thank you. You're disgracing the legal immigration system that came here and the immigrants that came here the right way through Ellis Island at the time, now through our going through a process. And I want to talk about that process because I've always been told, and it's never been really challenged, is that good process builds good policy, builds good politics. I think that works really, really good because you can always fall back to the process. If the process isn't good, you always get a good process. Now, you heard the word establishing trust, okay? How can you establish trust at the very beginning when you have a false narrative here? You're defending folks who have broken the law. The definition I've always looked at is trust is a series of promises kept. What kind of trust are you supporting here? What is the trust with an illegal alien? It's a false hope. It's a false
Literally,
trust.
though.
Welcome,
What
we're bringing
good
you
comes out
in.
of somebody who came here illegally?
It's disorganized process. Now, let me ask you a question. Mayor Adams, did you support SB 1070?
I'm sorry,
Did you support the Arizona law called SB 1070?
I'm not familiar with it, sir.
Well, let me explain, okay?
Mm-hmm.
SB 1070 challenged the federal government on its supremacy clause. Because we in Arizona wanted, the government wasn't doing anything, so we thought, we'll do this. We can't allow this to break laws. The Supreme Court ruled that struck it down. Now, it seems contraindicating here that you would have supported SB 1070, right, Mary Adams? Based on the premise that you or would you violate the supremacy clause in regards to immigration?
Would I
violate the supremacy clause?
This is way over my head.
Okay.
I felt law.
That's
you know.
Mayor Johnson, would you have supported SB 1070, allowing Arizona to follow their own laws? Because that's what you're doing right here.
Eric Adams don't even know what's going on, bro.
Thank you, Congressman. We currently follow all federal law, all state law, and all local law. So we do not have any supremacy clause challenges that we're pursuing or maintaining.
Okay. Well, it seems like you are, but Mr. Johnson, do you agree?
The city of Chicago complies with all laws.
Okay. Mayor Wu.
I'm not familiar with that law because I'm focused on the city of Boston, but we follow all state, city, and federal laws in Boston.
What happens when you get in conflict with them? Who do you support?
The Constitution, as I understand it, doesn't require cities or police officers or anyone to follow their laws in conflict, follow federal laws in conflict with local laws or state laws.
Okay, in the Constitution, it says, and it's explicit that the federal government has jurisdiction and supremacy over all immigration laws, right? I mean, I've heard it a number of times from my colleagues over here. We're the ones who can define that.
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones that have that. We just heard we want a comprehensive immigration policy. How can you get a comprehensive immigration policy when you're defining it from the very get-go? You're building it on false premises and false tenets.
Respectfully, Congressman, you could pass bipartisan legislation, and that would be comprehensive immigration law.
What
The
would you
false
have?
narrative is that
What
immigrants in general are
about-
criminals, or immigrants in
Come on,
general
Wooski,
cause all
woo.
sorts of danger and harm. That is actually what is undermining safety in our communities. If you wanted to make us safe,
Crazy.
pass gun reforms, stop cutting Medicaid, stop cutting cancer research,
This lady is
stop
insane.
cutting funds for veterans. That is what will make our city
Democrats
safe.
will never win anything ever
I
again.
yield
bro.
back.
Chair recognizes
man.
Mr. Krishnamurti from Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor Johnson, there's been much talk about Chicago and its enforcement of laws to rid our communities of criminals. So I want to give you a chance to address some of these questions. First, Mayor Johnson, the city of Chicago operates under 4 sets of laws: federal, state, county, and of course, Chicago's own laws, right?
That is correct.
And most of these laws are not
slip,
within
buddy,
Chicago's
'cause I'm
sole
writing it
power
down
to
if you
change.
do.
For example, the Illinois Trust Act, a state law, was enacted in 2017 by then Republican Governor Bruce Rauner and dictates interactions between ICE and law enforcement, right?
That is correct.
And under Chicago's own law, I have a copy of it right here. Chicago is required to help ICE whenever ICE presents a
What?
judicial
Chicago is
criminal
required
warrant
to help
for an
ICE.
arrest, correct?
Let's
Yes.
go.
In fact, Chicago has assisted ICE with criminal warrants in the past, right?
Woo!
Yes.
So just
there you
to
go,
clear it up,
baby.
anytime that ICE does the work and goes to a court to get a criminal warrant to arrest somebody, the city of Chicago not only is required to, but does cooperate to remove that criminal from our community, right?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Let me turn to another topic. President Trump has said many things about Chicago, including that it is, I have this NBC News report, worse than Afghanistan. Mayor, I
Right.
suggest the facts suggest otherwise. For example, Condé Nast recently named Chicago the best big city in America 8 years in a row.
A friendly amendment, best freaking city in the world, city of Chicago.
Chicago is the largest rail hub in America.
That is correct.
Chicago is a quantum technology hub in this country.
$20 billion new investment.
Chicago area is the home to the second most number of Fortune 500 headquarters of any city in America, right?
Just voted again the top relocator for corporate headquarters for 13 consecutive years.
And it's home to O'Hare Airport, the most interconnected airport on the continent.
This
Is that
is
right?
bullshit.
That is correct.
That doesn't sound like
Yes,
Afghanistan to me, sir, does it?
The city of Chicago is a beautiful place.
Wiping his
We also
ass
have
already, dude.
20% of the world's
Jesus
fresh water
Christ.
right in our front yard. Our restaurants are amazing. In fact, everything that is dope about America comes from Chicago.
A
Dude is
Republican
literally
named
wiping his
Lincoln
ass right now,
was
bro.
nominated for president in Chicago, and a Democrat named Obama called Chicago home too. It's the city of big
Obama
shoulders,
wasn't
the
good,
heart
bro.
of the heartland, the
Y'all
home to
kills me
the
with
world's
this
best
man.
pizza.
Oh my
And we're not
God,
going to take
y'all
any
like
slander
Obama was
from Donald Trump or
wrong.
anyone else
This
lying
dude
down. Is that
sucked.
right?
That is correct.
Sir, I want to turn your attention to another topic. Mayor Johnson, you'd agree with me that high grocery prices are among the top concerns for the people of Chicago, right?
The economic conditions that are unfortunately that are not being addressed by Washington has caused a great deal of trepidation and anxiety.
Mayor Wu, according to USDA, the wholesale cost of a dozen eggs has gone from $6.59 since January 19th when Donald Trump took office
This is
to
fucking
$8.39.
Oh, y'all finna talk
a
about Trump
27% increase, and this has got to anger Bostonians, right?
Like, dude,
People are
get
doing their
a
very best,
life.
trying their
That's
hardest,
all
working
y'all
multiple
do is
jobs,
talk
and they
about
need
Donald
support.
Trump. This is
Mayor
literally
Johnston, I
pathetic.
suppose that people in Denver
Oh
are
my
concerned as well,
gosh.
right?
A very concern. This is the most important issue for us, is how we make sure that it's affordable to live in the city.
This is pathetic.
Mayor Adams, the same is true for New Yorkers.
Affordability is an issue that's impacting our city, and that's why we're doing best we can to put $30 billion back in the pockets
This is
of
so
working class
pathetic.
people.
President
Making
Trump,
your
if you're
egg
watching
without
this hearing,
talking
I
about
respectfully ask, when will egg costs be high enough for you to issue one executive order on bird flu? $10 a carton, $15 a carton. It'll soon be cheaper to buy a magazine for an AK-47 than to buy breakfast. This is flat out wrong.
Do y'all hear
Turn to
this
my
nigga
last topic.
gaslighting, bro?
Interestingly, last night in a record-long address, the
can't believe
president did
people
not
actually
mention
get
the word
paid
Medicaid
and
once,
say this
which is
crap.
top of mind for everyone. Mayor Johnson, you don't dispute that
You have to
1.6
embrace
million people
nuclear
in Cook
energy,
County
bro.
are enrolled in Medicaid, right?
I do not dispute that. In fact, in most of our safety net hospitals, 70% of the individuals that are being serviced
Man,
are being
he's
serviced through Medicaid.
literally in
I recently
Illinois,
received
bro.
outreach from Lurie Children's,
This
a
is
preeminent
biased as
children's
hell. This
hospital
is literally
located in Chicago.
biased.
They said, quote, putting slashing
Oh, we got a
Medicaid
$5 chat from Ruth
will put
Mama.
access to care
Thank
for
you
all
for your
children in our
integrity and
state at risk.
patriotism. God bless you and your family.
You
Thank
would
you so
agree
much,
that's
Ruth.
unacceptable, right?
That is unacceptable.
It
Thank
doesn't
you
matter
so
where you're
much.
from. If you're white, black, brown, poor, or rich, massive cuts to Medicaid will devastate our healthcare system.
W. Ruth in the chat,
Thank you, and I
guys.
yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognize Mr. Perry from Pennsylvania.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mayors, thanks for being here, leaving your cities to come to Washington, D.C. today. By either definition or by
There
claim,
you go, man.
each of you,
Obama
I
is
think,
honestly his
could
birth certificate is
justifiably
fake.
say represent
His
what's
name's
considered a
fake.
sanctuary
He's
city.
fake. He's not black.
Well, if you could describe it, what would you, sanctuary from what?
Right.
Anybody? Mayor Johnson, you want to start? Mayor
Yeah, thank
Johnston?
you,
Yeah.
Anybody,
Congressman.
right.
I welcome that because I wanted to clarify. We do not shield people from federal
I just asked
We
you
do not
what,
provide
so
sanctuary.
you don't consider yourself a sanctuary city?
What?
We provide services and supports.
Do
We
you
not provide
consider yourself a
sanctuary.
sanctuary city? That's just,
We do not under that definition.
you don't use the definition, so you're not a sanctuary.
We call ourselves a
Yo,
welcoming
he's
city.
damn near
Okay,
might be
so what's
dumber
the,
than
so
our
what are
Brandon
you
Johnson.
welcoming and who are you not welcoming?
Well, we're welcoming everybody.
Okay.
We don't keep folks.
So you're
Only
welcoming
reason why he
criminals
won.
that you don't have any idea what their crime background is, and that's, you're good with that.
No, we aggressively pursue.
How do you do
violent
that?
criminals
No,
anywhere.
no, how do you vet the people that you welcome in your sanctuary city?
Sir, we don't vet folks that arrive from Illinois or California with a background check when they come into the Denver airport any more than someone from another
So
location.
you're welcoming any illegal immigrant or illegal alien to your city without question.
Well, folks that make the decision to come to Denver, they arrive, and then we expect.
But
them
you
to get a
call
job,
them, you
pay
welcome
taxes.
them. You welcome them. You call them to your city and say, if you come here, you will be
Smuggling.
safe from what?
Sorry,
Thank you,
guys.
sir.
I was
We
looking
don't
at-
call anyone to our city. Folks that arrive in our city, we offer same access to services they may need to be successful. And if they break the law, we hold them accountable. We charge them. We prosecute them.
What about if they've already broken the law?
Exactly.
They've
Y'all
already
keep
broken the
letting them
law
back
and
on the
there is
street.
another jurisdiction that has a warrant for that person. They let us know, and we will
Easy.
cooperate to transfer them to that jurisdiction.
I think we saw in Mr. Jordan's conversation with you that you really don't do that. Mayor Johnson, how about you? How many, according to my records, you have welcomed 51,648 illegal aliens to your sanctuary city. So I'd ask you, sanctuary from what?
If you're referring to the number of individuals that were bused from Governor Abbott without any coordination, the 52,000 individuals that were seeking asylum, those individuals were bused to us. I passed a bus
Because you
ordinance
wanted
to
them.
work
They
to
were
coordinate
busting you
with
because
the
you
governor of
wanted
Texas. He
them.
refused to do that.
What
but
the?
that transfer of individuals was the result of the governor of Texas, not the result of a welcoming city ordinance.
Dude,
Welcoming
you
city
were welcome.
ordinance.
You
So
were welcoming
you're not
them
welcoming
well
these
before
people that
Greg
came
Abbott
here
said
illegally?
That and did that, bro. Nobody want to hear
The
that.
individuals that were bused to us from the border. From
They were
Governor
not
Abbott.
welcome in Chicago? You didn't welcome them? You didn't provide them sanctuary?
So the welcoming city ordinance is pretty straightforward. It allows for our local law enforcement to focus on local policies, and that's why we're seeing a
But why
decline in
isn't
violent.
So you
law
don't care
enforcement
about
working with
federal
ICE?
law enforcement policies, only
This
local
is not what you was
policies.
saying in
We
the,
comply
in
with
the
all laws.
press
What I do
conferences.
care about is this body, Washington, passing comprehensive
So,
immigration
so
reform.
let me ask you this. Chicago residents reported 28,443 violent crimes during 2024 alone, cases of aggravated assault rising to the highest level in 2 decades. Now, also, state funds, $160 million were issued to illegal alien job assistance shelters in Chicago. You're the mayor of Chicago. Do you think that your residents or the residents of your state should be paying for that more than they should be paying for their own needs, their own roads, their own public safety? I mean,
Right.
who elected you? The people that came illegally,
Well, the
whether
people
they
of
were sent to you or not,
Chicago,
or the
thank
people that
you, bro.
reside in Chicago?
Literally,
Who
though,
elected
like you acting like these
And who do you
illegals are the
serve?
ones that got you in
The
office.
people of Chicago elected me as the 57th mayor of the city of Chicago, and we serve all the residents of the city of Chicago.
Illegal or not, criminal or not? How many of the 662,566 illegal aliens with criminal histories that ICE has reported are now residing in Chicago?
Someone will have to get back with you with that number.
Do you
I don't
take,
keep
do you
account.
take immigration
bullshit,
information
man.
from criminals as they're arrested
Lying
and processed?
again.
Do you take immigration information?
Our local law enforcement focuses on getting
Do you
all
take,
violent
do you
individuals off the
determine
streets
whether
of
they're here
Chicago.
legally, what their immigration status
Dude, it's
is
ridiculous,
as a
man.
function of your justice?
There you go,
Gentlemen,
P. Ray.
time's
I
expired.
heard you,
Please
P.
feel free
Ray.
to answer the question, Mayor.
There you go, P. Ray. I hear you.
The Welcome in City ordinance ensures that our local residents communicate and trust local law enforcement to ensure that
Yes, sorry to hear
criminals
about that,
and
man.
crime is being addressed.
So
And
you
that's
have
why
no
violent
idea how many
crime
are illegal.
has
Thank
gone
you,
down
Mr.
in the
Chairman.
city
I'll
of
yield.
Chicago. Thank you very much,
Chair now
Congressman.
recognizes
Chairman, I have a
Mr.
unanimous
Khanna.
consent request.
Chair now
Mr.
recognizes.
Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request.
No.
I'm sorry, Ms. Presley.
I have unanimous consent request.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh,
I'd like to seek unanimous consent to enter into the record. Mass deportations would deliver a catastrophic blow to the U.S. economy. This is from the Joint Economic Committee, December 2024.
From where?
How?
What publication?
The Joint Economic Committee, December 2024.
Without objection, so ordered.
I'd like to seek unanimous consent to enter into the record from the American Immigration Council, October 2024. Mass deportation, devastating cost to America, its budget and economy.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Mr. Khanna from California.
You replace
Mr. Chair.
Wait, I'm sorry.
American.
Mayor Wu needs a short break to attend to her young child. Mayor.
Mr.
you
Chairman,
may be-
I got the note that the baby's okay for now, so I'll continue. But thank you. I will.
You're a mom.
I believe from my husband that the baby's okay, and
Okay, well,
and
just
the
let us
arrangement, if
know.
it's okay, was that everyone would take a break, so I wouldn't have to go into a back room by myself to nurse when it's time. Thank you.
What are you doing?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You just had a
Mr. Chair,
baby?
I find the Republican position in this hearing quite ironic because the Republicans are the party that are always touting local government, state government, local control.
Why is your
not
hair
having federal
purple?
overreach? So
Like,
I want to
this is
explore
stupid,
actually one of
bro. This
your
is
favorite topics
dumb. Oh
on the
my
other side
God.
of the aisle, the infamous mask mandates. I know how much you love them. When CDC came out with the mask mandate order of January 29, 2021, they said that we needed to have fines of $1,500 for anyone who didn't wear a mask on a plane or in a public space. And they said that there needed to be referred criminally to the Transportation Authority if they violated it more than once. Now, Governor Abbott said in Executive Order 38, we're not going to have our cities enforce the mask mandate. And Governor DeSantis said the same thing. We're not going to have our local police enforce the mandate.
That's actually
I want to
a
ask
lie.
Mayor Adams and
Florida was
Mayor
one of the
Wu, because
first
you have
states
slightly
to
different
announce
views on the mask
COVID.
mandate, but Mayor Adams,
And
you were
California
actually
will be one of the
praised
last.
in New York.
Honestly, I
for
think it
saying,
was the last.
We are going to
So that's
take
not
away
true.
some
Actually,
of these
actually,
mask
that's false.
mandates earlier so businesses can open and there can be a revival in New York. Did you ever, in law enforcement, to your knowledge, enforce the CDC mask mandate and ask your law enforcement to fine people who didn't wear a mask $1,500?
What we did was looked at the science and looked at how it will impact business. And after issuing warnings in education.
But I think it's fair to say, Mayor, right? You never referred anyone to the Transportation Department for prosecution, and you never had local police out there saying we're going to fine people $1,500 with the CDC mandate.
The goal was to always ensure that people will carry out the procedure, and we did several education and warning in the process.
Mayor Wu, you were a great advocate of masks and looked at the science. Do you know if your city government actually ever used police resources to carry out the CDC or transportation department's mask mandate where they were fining $1,500 or referring for criminal prosecution?
I am not aware of any incidents of someone in Boston having been fined or prosecuted for any mask-related issues. We certainly prioritize public health and saving lives, and so our role as a city was to provide positive communication, outreach, make sure there were signs and different community organizations that could go and remind people to stay safe and do their best to take care of each other and their families.
As much of an advocate as you were for masks, and I was an advocate for masks, would you have been hesitant to order your law enforcement, your local police, to say if someone was violating those mask mandates that we need to cooperate and turn them over to the transportation department for prosecution? Would that have given you some pause if the federal government were saying use your police departments to fine people $1,500 and give us their records for criminal prosecution?
Yes, it would have.
And so I guess I'm trying to understand, you know, if we set this precedent that we want cities to be enforcing every federal mandate,
I hope they
then
do.
what happens when there's a new Democratic president that comes and says, we want a mask mandate that the Republicans may not want? And when they're conservatives like Governor DeSantis or Governor Abbott saying we don't want our cities to enforce that. Do you see, Mayor Wu, any difference between a federal government asking you to enforce laws that ICE is doing versus a federal government asking you to enforce a mask mandate, or frankly, to enforce gun laws that may not be what your local city department is focused on?
It does seem that local authority is part of our democracy and part of our system of government.
Isn't the real issue here not one of immigration, but of federalism? Isn't the question, I mean, everyone agrees that there needs to be, if there's someone who's convicted of a crime, that ICE has the right to enforce those laws. The question is just, are you going to have local governments in this country be beholden to every new president's directives and armed for enforcing that? My view is that we ought to have local governments be able to use their police officers for their priorities. That, in its essence, is federalism, and it actually used to be the conservative Republican position.
Gentlemen's time's expired. Chair recognizes Dr. Fox from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Johnson, in the last 4 years, how much has Chicago spent on care for illegal aliens?
Thank you for that question, Congresswoman. So since 2022, since the governor of Texas
I'm blaming Greg Abbott, bro.
I don't need a speech. Just
I didn't want to blame Greg Abbott.
Since 2022, since the governor of Texas was shipping individuals to cities across this country, the city's budget, roughly 1% of the city's budget over the course of 4 years.
Mayor Johnston, the same question, and I don't. How much has New York spent to care for illegal aliens?
Approximately $6.9 billion went out of our taxpayers' funds.
Mayor Wu, same question. How much?
Well,
has
everybody
Boston
answered
spent
the
to
question
care for illegal
except Greg
aliens
Johnson, bro.
in the last 4 years?
We do not ask about immigration status and giving city services and providing that access, so we do not have a number.
Taxpayers been bearing the brunt of the massive wave of illegal aliens who've entered the United States.
They don't even
the Biden
care how much
administration
money that
seemingly
they
declared
spend, bro.
taxpayers and hardworking Americans collateral damage in the pursuit of open borders. Again, Mayor Johnson, are NGOs providing services to illegal aliens in Chicago?
In accordance with the Welcoming City Ordinance, our sister agencies or city departments, we do not seek the status of any individual that is seeking service.
Mayor Johnston, are NGOs providing services to illegal aliens in Denver?
Thank you, ma'am. When folks arrive on the streets without food or resources or shelter, we do provide food or shelter regardless of where folks arrive from.
Mayor Adams,
All right, guys, it
same
looks kind of
question.
choppy.
Yes, in combination of city agencies and nonprofits, we responded to the migrant asylum seekers humanitarian crisis that hit our city.
And Mayor Wu, I assume you don't know their status, but do you know if there are NGOs are providing services to people arriving in your city without any kind of documentation?
There are community organizations, many of them in Boston, who seek to serve all of our Boston residents.
Congress must provide oversight and ensure accountability for taxpayer funds going to NGOs. Agents from Customs and Border Protection have been outspoken in opposition to allowing NGOs to assist illegal aliens in subversion of law and order. When asked if NGOs are working at cross purposes to the mission of Border Patrol agents, the chief of the National Border Patrol Council said, quote, "Most definitely, and they should not be allowed, but our government allows it," end quote. NGOs receiving taxpayer funding through grants pay for everything from food, shelter, and transportation to legal services that help the migrants traverse Mexico. That is why I introduced H.R. 245, the Grant Integrity and Border Security Act. This bill would require all NGOs who apply for a federal grant to certify as part of their application.
Yeah, he
they
is lying.
not, will not, and are not engaging in acts that violate federal immigration law. If NGOs continue violating our immigration laws, then my bill would ensure that no federal funds can ever go to the violators. It's time to pass this bill, ensure accountability, and secure our cities and the border. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Brown from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, we've heard my colleagues on the other side of the aisle demean and dehumanize immigrants, choosing fear-mongering and political theater over real solutions. So let's take a moment to set the record straight.
Man,
the best chance
ain't
for
no
comprehensive
fear-mongering,
immigration
bro.
reform
People
came
are
in
dying out here.
2013 when a bipartisan Senate
What are
majority
you
passed a
talking
bill
about, you
strengthening border
dumbass?
security and providing a path to citizenship for longtime residents. But House Republicans killed it. Fast forward a decade later to last year, the Senate crafted another bipartisan deal, one that would have enhanced border security and tackled the fentanyl crisis with better technology and more agents. But Donald Trump torpedoed it, preferring anti-immigration rhetoric to real solutions. So this isn't about fixing the problem, it's about exploiting it. And let's not forget, the president wasn't complaining about this when he was employing undocumented immigrants at his resort. We all remember President Trump's tired old tactics from his first term, the harmful Muslim ban, referring to Black and brown countries as quote unquote shithole countries, and the cruel images of kids in cages. This time around is no different. President Trump signed multiple executive orders before even
ghetto
attempting
person doing all
to
this
work with
extra, like,
Congress.
you just gotta be a
Mind you,
black
a
bro.
Republican-controlled Congress. So this isn't about policy, it's about fear. For the last decade, Trump has pushed menacing messages portraying all immigrants as criminals. But it isn't just coming from Trump. It's being amplified by right-wing
Right, we just
media.
closed the border.
A recent Ipsos polls found that people who watch Fox News are twice as likely to believe myths about immigration, including the false idea that immigrants commit more crimes than native-born Americans. This is objectively false, yet 2 in 3 Fox viewers believe it is true. This serves a purpose: fueling outrage, distracting from real solutions, and keeping the conversation stuck in a cycle of fear instead of facts. And Trump's immigration these missions: ICE raids, choreographed for cameras, deportation sweeps with photo ops, wardrobe changes, and tough talk. The cruel performative videos of immigrants in shackles. $200 million
right now.
in taxpayer
Literally,
money
you're
to air pro-Trump propaganda ads. Talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. All spectacle, no substance, all performance, no
That's coming
plan.
from a Democrat, by
On the
the way.
campaign trail, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump promoted vile and xenophobic lies about Haitian immigrants in my state of Ohio. And now the Trump administration has moved to strip protections from 500,000 Haitians. These are people who have
Nobody doing all
lived,
that cursing,
worked,
screaming,
and
yelling,
contributed
all
to this
that.
country for years. And they came here the right way, the legal way. But instead of recognizing their contributions, we are forcing them back to a country plagued by violence, instability, and humanitarian crisis. Also, Trump can claim 500,000 more deportations. The cruelty isn't just the point. It's their pleasure. So let's be honest about what's really going on here. Mayor Johnson of Chicago, what sort of an impact will the Trump administration's decision to allow arrests at sensitive locations like hospitals, preschools, churches, and courts have on your city?
Thank you for that question. As a welcoming city space, it's important that the trust between the community and law enforcement is strong. That's ultimately how we have built a safer city. Just this year alone, violent crime is down 20%. Any type of threat to the civility and to the humanity of people is a threat to the evolution of our democracy. And so it's incumbent upon Washington to ensure that we are funding our education system, that we are funding our transportation system, our healthcare system, creating more jobs. Just since I've been in office, we've increased youth employment, summer jobs by over 40%, making sure that our young people see their purpose is the value of this democracy. And so I call on this body to continue to invest in the city of Chicago that sends billions of dollars to Washington.
Thank you. Fear and cruelty are not the solution. It's distinctly un-American and a dangerous distraction from the Congress's responsibility to actually deliver progress on this challenging facing our country. And with that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Groffman from Wisconsin.
Yeah, just a couple comments first. As far as the idea who's committing crimes, we have no idea how many illegal immigrants in this country are committing crimes because nobody keeps track. Okay.
Right.
If I go to a prison or a jail in Wisconsin with, I don't know, 1,500 inmates, and I ask how many of these people are here illegally or how many are citizens of another country, nobody will know the answer to that question. So that's why we don't have hard facts on how many crimes people committed. The other thing I like to point out is every year in this country, about 850,000 new people from other countries are sworn in as American citizens. I don't know of Donald Trump ever talking about reducing that number. Maybe he should reduce that number, but I've never heard him talk about reducing that number. Our concern here was illegal immigration, and I would hope the vast majority think we ought to have a immigration law that the 850,000 new citizens every year go through. But if we're going to have an immigration law, it means we have to do something with the people who try to become permanent residents without going through the proper structure. Now, I think part of our problem here is we have a lot of people who don't understand why we have an immigration law at all. And I want to ask all four of you as I go down, we go down the row here, do you believe the United States should have an immigration law, or do you believe that just anybody should be able to show up and come in? And we'll start with Mayor Adams there.
I strongly believe we need to have an immigration law. I strongly believe we need to secure our borders. We witnessed a 90% decrease, and we're seeing that play out in our city. So we should have a strong immigration law.
Good. And I'll ask this question then. If you believe we should have an immigration law, and then we'll get all four of you here. If you believe that, do you believe people who ignore the law, whatever that law is, should be allowed in the country?
I think that all of us must be held accountable to the law, and if we secure our borders to make sure before they come in,
So that means
that is
all
done
y'all need to go to
correctly,
jail
it is
then.
not going
Y'all
to
all
impact
just committing
cities
crime.
to carry that burden. Like I said, close to $7 billion in tax dollars.
Mr. Johnson, do you believe we ought to have an immigration law in this country, or do you believe everybody should just be able to walk in here and set up shop?
Thank you, sir. I do believe we should have an immigration law. I do believe we should have secure borders. I do believe we should fix our asylum process. I do believe we should let dreamers get access to permanent citizenship. I
Okay,
think
then the
there's lots
question
we could
is,
do.
if somebody ignores that law and comes in this country, do you believe the whoever,
You guys, I
ICE
knew,
or
please hit that
Border
like and
Patrol or
subscribe
anybody
button.
should spin them around and
This
send
is
them out, or can they
insanity.
just ignore the law
Insanity.
because they, however, cross the Rio Grande, overstating a visa, whatever, are here? Do you believe that we ought to do something to the people who are ignoring the law?
Thank you, sir. In the case of the folks we're seeing, they are coming here because they are claiming asylum. When they claim asylum, they then have a right
Asylum
to a
from
day
what?
in court to
Other
see if that
countries?
asylum claim
Right.
is
The
valid.
question is, though,
Illegals?
if I come in this country and stay here and I have not gone through any formal process to become a citizen or to be a visa, legal visa or whatever, should we kick that person out?
The folks that we're serving,
Yes.
sir, are trying very hard to navigate that legal
Yes,
process.
bro.
It's
It's a
often a
simple
7-year wait
answer.
for a
Yes.
court date when they arrive to this country. So part of it is the
Okay.
backlogged
me
administrative
tell you
need.
Yes, is the correct
Every
answer,
month
bro.
under President Biden,
Oh my
at least
God.
the statistics I have, 30 to
Trying to be
40,000
politically
people,
correct
what are
will
called
always lead you
gotaways,
in the
came across
toilet.
the southern border, didn't ask for asylum, didn't ask for anything. Do you believe that people who just come across that way should be escorted out of the country, or do you believe just because they ran between the designated checkpoints that they, as the result, get to stay here forever?
And so we're serving folks who are seeking asylum or have status,
Well, of course,
like temporary protected
you
status,
wouldn't even know
or
that.
CBP1.
Okay, next mayor,
Yeah.
Mayor Johnson, buddy from Chicago. What do you think? Should we have an immigration law in this country, or should anybody who comes here just be able to stay here?
What's
I
going
do
on?
support the bipartisan legislation that was passed out of the Senate for comprehensive immigration.
Well, no,
reform.
that's not answering the
That's
question.
not what he
Right now,
asked.
people are breaking the law. Do you believe the United States should have an immigration law? As far as I know, every country in the world has an immigration law. Maybe there's one outlier or something. Do you and we have laws in the United States. Do you believe if people come here and break the law that they should be escorted out, or do you believe they just get to stay here forever?
Our immigration system is broken. We have not had comprehensive
like the
immigration
Bro,
reform
that's
since
not what he's
1986.
asking.
May I answer fully?
Yeah, his time's expired, but
Okay.
feel free to answer. Do you want Mayor Wu to answer your question, or are you finished? Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Congressman. Yes,
No,
I do
dumbass ain't
believe
gonna
we
do it.
need cities everywhere clearly need an immigration law that has secure borders, comprehensive and consistent, compassionate pathways to residency and citizenship, resources to adjudicate the complexities of the law. And at the same time, I do not support mass deportation. That would be devastating for our economy. And there are millions of people who are
Bro, you're dumb.
running our small
These are
businesses,
lyrical.
going to our schools.
Oh my God.
Thank you. Chair recognizes, and I must add, I don't think anyone's calling for mass deportation, but Chair recognizes Mr. Garcia from California.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all of our witnesses for being here today. Before I came to Congress, I was the mayor of Long Beach, California for 8 years. It's a diverse city of about 500,000 people, so I appreciate the work that mayors do. As mayor, I signed the Long Beach Values Act to protect all of our residents, including immigrants and undocumented residents. We set up justice funds to support people that were facing deportation, defending immigrants in court. These are policies that are strongly supported by my residents back home because they are good for all the community and make Long Beach safer. Now, we also know that immigrants make our communities vibrant and thriving places to live. The facts are that sanctuary jurisdictions or jurisdictions that welcome immigrants are overwhelmingly safer than non-sanctuary jurisdictions. That's actually a fact. Immigrants, both documented and undocumented, are also less likely to be incarcerated or to commit crimes than native-born people. We know this to be true. Again, these are facts, and mayors have every right to pursue the policies that you know are best for your residents. Now, the Trump administration has threatened to prosecute some of the mayors on the panel today and force them to comply with his extremist agenda. But however, Mayor Adams, you are in a different position. You, of course, are already facing serious criminal charges. And Mayor Adams, I assume that you are not going to commit perjury today. And I do believe, though, that you have an enormous amount of issues facing you ahead of you. And it means that your criminal charges are absolutely relevant to us today. Bribery, wire fraud, willfully and knowingly conspiring to commit offenses against the United States. Mayor Adams, you, of course, deny these corruption charges against you. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, Congressman.
Thank you. Now, I understand that you are proven
Lego P-Ray,
innocent unless you are guilty.
Back with the MAGA hat.
But you also have, sir, a trust problem. 4 of your deputy mayors have resigned. Now, this is serious, and Republican prosecutors agree that the evidence against you is ironclad, yet Trump's DOJ moved to drop these charges. Now, I just want to be and show this. I want to be just really clear and show this here. Now, look at how the Trump-appointed acting U.S. attorney who is prosecuting you described it. Because the law does not support a dismissal, and because I am confident that Adams committed the crimes with which he is charged, I cannot agree to seek a dismissal. Now, this is a conservative Republican who resigned when Donald Trump pressured her to drop the charges. And we know the Trump administration demanded that the charges be dropped. And this is key. They will be able to refile them against you, Mr. Mayor, at any time.
Of that?
I think, personally, that's why you sat next to the architect of family separation on Fox and Friends. Now, Tom Homan sat next to you and said the following, and I quote, "Getting on Rikers Island is step one. We're working on some other things that we don't really want to talk about on open air because the city council will be putting roadblocks up on us. The mayor and me have a commitment to several other things." So this is you, of course, and Mr. Homan, the architect of family separation.
Because he didn't agree.
This is also incredibly concerning, Mr. Mayor.
Democrats started.
You sat next to him, you smiled, you badmouthed your own city council. Now, Mr. Mayor, we have a right to know if the Trump administration has actually coerced you into agreeing to anything. And Mayor Adams, I also want to be very clear. Are you selling out New Yorkers to save yourself from prosecution?
And those charges are false. Thank you so much.
There's no deal, no quid pro quo, and I did nothing wrong. And anything dealing with this case out of deference to Judge Ho, who's now addressing it, I'm going to refer to his actions.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it appears, to me at least, that you are selling New Yorkers out. It appears that you are working with Tom Homan, who is clearly focused on family separation and deportations and harming New Yorkers and others across the country. Now, every other mayor on this panel is pursuing legal and effective policies that benefit our residents and their communities. Their policies actually uphold public safety. Now, I personally agree with the majority of New Yorkers and think, Mr. Mayor, that you should resign. You should do the right thing. You should step down and resign today.
Now you want him
and with
to
that,
resign because
I yield
he
back.
don't agree with the sanctuary city.
Would my friend yield?
Shut up, dude.
Would my friend yield?
Shut
I yield.
up.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I want to be really clear. Were you pressured in exchange for the dropping and dismissal of the criminal charges in your indictment to cooperate with the Trump administration on all fronts with respect to immigration? Did any such conversation take place?
I think I was extremely clear.
I cannot hear you, sir.
I think I was extremely clear. No quid pro quo, no agreement. I did nothing wrong but serve the people of New York City.
Thank my friend for yielding.
Chair, now recognize Mr. Cloud from Texas.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, witnesses, for being here. You know, we are indeed a nation of immigrants. I have to look no further than my own children, who are the inheritance of both my ancestors who got here in the 1600s with William Penn, or my wife who got here when we got married. I think that's really what this nation is about. But you are not here today because of legal immigration. You are here because of illegal migrants who have been sent to our country. In your opening statements, there was a deft,
what do you mean,
linguistic shell game that you played to try to conflate legal immigration with people who are coming here illegally.
What did you
and we're savvy to that. You are here because each of you, with the exception of Mr. Adams, have said in some form or fashion that you will not honor ICE detainers. In other words, that when you have people in custody and ICE says we need to come arrest that person because they're here illegally, that we will not honor that. That's why you're here. No one's asking you to go round up criminal aliens. We are asking you to take people who are already in your custody and hand them over to legal federal law enforcement. Now, what this does is it saves U.S. taxpayer money. It keeps from a greater presence of ICE and federal law enforcement in your communities, because if you're releasing them, it takes more people, as Chairman Jordan mentioned, to go in and to re-arrest that person, and it puts the lives of law enforcement in danger. This used to be a bipartisan issue. As a matter of fact, groups like the Cato Institute called President Obama the deporter-in-chief. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit for the record a Cato article that said President Obama, deporter-in-chief is the title of it. So why we have to ask is suddenly the left not embracing policies that Obama supported. We can look to last night, where it seems to be Trump derangement syndrome, where the left could not seem to applaud kids fighting cancer, a first lady, an accomplished immigrant in her own rights, where traditionally we have applauded and recognized and honored the families for their sacrifice. Many of them are, this is the president's issue, and they're kind of along for the ride. It was odd, I thought, that they applauded sending more money to the Ukraine, but not peace for Ukraine. And so it brings us back to why we're here and why this is a partisan issue all of a sudden. It boggles the mind. Now, Mayor Johnson, you seem to want to talk about Texas. So I'm from Texas. Let's talk about Texas. First of all, have you been to the southern border?
I've been to Texas, but I have not been exactly to the southern border.
Okay. You seem to talk about Governor Abbott and sending buses to your city. Now, I can understand the concern with that, but I will also let you know that Texas did not ask for the Biden administration to open the borders and send an exponential amount of people that have affected your city into our state. And you should know that no one forced them to go to your city. The reason they selected your city is because you have said it's a sanctuary city. Everyone was asked where they wanted to go before they got on the bus. No one asked them to get on the, or told them, forced them to get on the bus. They did it of their own free will, and they were sent to your city because of your stated claim to be a sanctuary city. Now, one thing I could tell you, having toured the facilities, is that I've been to those facilities under the Biden administration where there was a map on the wall, and you could see the migrants kind of pointing out which city they wanted to go to. And I can also tell you, from having been through the immigration process with my wife, there's a difference between people coming here legally and then people who are, when I've been at the ceremony where the people are crying with tears as they take the oath of citizenship to come to this country, is far different than people coming across our border, waving the flags, not trying to assimilate into the United States culture, and sometimes bringing crime into our communities. This is an issue. Now, each mayor, I want to ask you, one of the issues recently is how much FEMA dollars have gone to support migrants and hotel rooms in your communities. Mayor Adams, do you know how many FEMA dollars is spent in your city?
$80 million, and I've been to the border and I saw those maps pointing to New York.
Thank you. Mayor Johnston?
Thank you, Congressman. I know we do have some federal dollars. I have to get back to you on the exact amount.
It's roughly 32 million, Mayor, 38 million, Mayor Johnson?
I don't have the exact numbers.
It's 32 million.
I don't have the number. I'd love to know.
29 million. So understandably, citizens are concerned about that, their taxpayer dollars that are supposed to be going to disaster relief for them and their communities going to illegal aliens. Do you agree, each of you, yes or no question, I have a couple seconds. Do you recognize that it is against the law to harbor criminal aliens?
Gentlemen, time's expired, but please answer the question, Mayor Adams.
Yes, reading federal law, correct.
I do recognize that, and we do not do that.
The city of Chicago does not harbor criminals.
Yes, we follow the laws.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request.
Proceed.
I would ask to enter into the record two articles. One, talking about President Trump putting mass deportations to the heart of his campaign during the campaign. And just last night, Trump vows to use U.S. military for mass deportations.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank the chair.
Chair recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the year is 1969. My abuela, Zenaida, my grandma, Yaya, gets a call. And her, my mother, Maritza, my aunt, Sandra, and my grandpa, Pepe, have to go to a plane within 24 hours because they've been approved to come to the United States. They came here as refugees in 1969 during the freedom flights from Cuba for their new life in accordance with the promise of this nation. ICE arrested hundreds of U.S. citizens during Trump's first term. Again, in the last few weeks, ICE has detained Native Americans, a teenage girl from Nicaragua, Puerto Ricans, a Puerto Rican military veteran, all legal residents, but all who fit the description. I bet someone like my grandma would have fit the description too. Maybe even myself. Trump's border czar went on TV and raged about Americans studying up on their constitutional rights during interactions with ICE agents. It was one of the most things I've seen. And the question is, why is he so upset that people know their constitutional rights? To the point where this administration has moved to try to intimidate members of Congress for trying to educate their constituents to know their rights. Why don't they want people to know their rights? Well, because if we know what our rights are, we'll also know when Trump tries to take them away. Mr. Beer, why are such outbursts from this administration alarming as threats to our rights and liberties?
Well, you think about what we've heard about detainer requests. I have documented over 155 U.S. citizens who've been targeted by detainer requests, and they want to say we're going to just take the discretion away from state and local governments over detainer requests, even in the case where someone is clearly a U.S. citizen. Here's my birth certificate. Doesn't matter. They're going to disregard it. And so, yes, I am well aware of the threat this administration poses to constitutional rights.
So from what we see the last few weeks, should American citizens, should people with legal permanent residence in this country be also scared of this mass deportation campaign for themselves and their own children?
Oh, absolutely. The birthright citizenship order is the most egregious, but that doesn't stop there. They want to take away people's citizenship and people's rights, regardless whether they're citizens or not.
Thank you. Mayor Wu, Boston has been named the 9th best city for quality of life in the entire country. Congratulations.
I would argue with that.
Okay. If Trump succeeds in forcing you to redirect your city's budget and personnel to help with ICE raids in this mass deportation campaign, how would that affect quality of life for your people?
First, that is against the laws in Boston and in Massachusetts. But I've heard from so many community members, including residents who are immigrants who are citizens, that they are terrified. And that means when people don't feel comfortable reaching out to call 911 when they need help, when survivors of domestic violence don't feel comfortable reporting or giving information, it makes all of us less safe, even those who aren't immigrants.
This culture of fear is bad for the safety of our people. Donald Trump's immigration raids are also traumatizing and destabilizing, of course, all Americans, but especially children and kids. Being a kid in America is hard enough. Making good grades, going through more school shooter drills and fire drills. And now Trump wants to send armed ICE agents into their classrooms to rip children from the school desk as they're trying to learn. Mayor Johnston, my colleagues are laughing about that. I don't find that funny. What would a school day be like for a kid in your city when ICE suddenly bangs down on the door and abruptly grabs their teacher or one of their friends?
Thank you, sir. I was a teacher and I was a school principal before I did this job. So I knew that our school was often the safest place that kids came. And they knew there they could learn, they could get support, they get access to services. And many of our kids come from mixed status families. They don't know their status. They don't know their mom's status or their dad's status. So I've had families before who have pulled their kids out of school, kids who were citizens, because they were worried that somehow their kids were in danger because they didn't know who was being taken. And so for us, the fastest way to make a city unsafe is to have kids not feel safe in their own schools.
See, they want everybody to live in fear of undocumented people. That is what they want to do. But I'll tell you, when I'm in my district and I do roundtables, I've done them with kids in elementary school, and I ask them what they want us to do. They want us to ban assault weapons. They say what they're actually scared of is being shot to death and dying in their schools. And because of actions that the Democratic administration took, the Biden administration with Congress, Gun violence has gone down in Denver, 24%, 25% Chicago, 40% down homicides in Boston. This works. Gun violence went up 45% under Trump. So when they're in charge, more people die. When they're in charge, we are actually less safe. And I think that's an important thing that we all have to keep in mind as they try to scare us in terms of immigrants who are living in this country. Thank you, and I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Palmer from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the witnesses for being here. I just want to respond about crimes committed by people here illegally. Every crime committed by someone in the United States illegally is a crime that would not have been committed. Lincoln Riley, Ruby Garcia, Rachel Morin, Joycelyn Nungaray, the woman set on fire in the New York subway. These are all assaults, rapes, murders, and other crimes that would not have taken the lives of these people if those people were not here illegally. They were given safe harbor. Now, I want to ask you something. You all took an oath of office. Mr. Adams, did you swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States?
Oh, yes, I do.
How about you, Mayor Johnson?
Yes, sir, I did.
How about you, Mayor, the other Mayor Johnson?
Yeah, the Constitution of the United States as well as the Constitution of Illinois.
Okay, and Mayor, you
Yes.
did. Are you familiar with the Supremacy Clause? Any of you?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. Then under the Supremacy Clause, you understand that the laws of the United States take precedent over the laws of Colorado, over the laws of Illinois, over the laws of Massachusetts, and your cities. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir, I do.
But when you declared your cities sanctuary cities, you did so illegally. Do you understand that?
Respectfully, sir, I would disagree with that. We
Well,
follow
You're
every
disagreeing
federal
with the law. It's against the law to give sanctuary to people who have committed felonies, and it's a felony to cross the border illegally.
There
You
is no-
gave sanctuary to people who are here illegally. You violated your oath to uphold the Constitution because of the Supremacy Clause. The laws of the United States take preference. But you didn't do that.
There is, thank you, sir. There's no part of our city law that violates federal law. No part of the practices or services we provided. That
Did
violate
you
federal law.
personally did you personally violate the law then by giving sanctuary? Somebody gave these people sanctuary. You declared your city, city of Boston was declared a sanctuary city by you, Mayor.
Being a sanctuary city as you describe it, or being a city as we describe it, that's home for everyone, does not, it means that if
When
you commit a
give
crime,
safe
you are
harbor
held
to
accountable
people who are
regardless of
here
immigration
illegally,
status.
and when you interfere with the officers of the law who are there to even remove people that you know have committed crimes, you have violated your oath of office. You've committed a crime. Mr. Chairman, I don't understand why we haven't been discussing obstruction of justice. I mean, get real about this. We have a problem in the country with the people who have come here illegally. And I just gave you a few names of people who have been raped and murdered. There are numerous others. There's a whole organization established called Remembrance to remember the people who have been assaulted, raped, murdered in this country because certain cities, certain officials decided to give sanctuary to people who came here illegally and committed these crimes. It goes all the way back to Kate Steinle, San Francisco, shot by someone who was here illegally. She would still be alive today. She died in the arms of her father. So I want to know if you understand the Supremacy Clause, that the laws of the United States are supreme over whatever your opinions might be of what the laws are.
Sir, I do recognize that. We do follow that. I want to clarify that we actively, aggressively pursue any known criminal in the city, and we actually partner with federal government to do that. If there is someone with a criminal warrant, we're searching for them. We have federal task forces we're partners of to break up gang activity. We do that for drug trafficking. We do that on armed robberies. So we are in partnership with the federal government on many issues around.
Mayor Adams is being attacked because he's agreed to cooperate with federal officials to uphold the laws of the United States. I haven't heard any of you in defense of that.
We are absolutely upholding the laws of the United States. We do it every day, and we will continue to do it.
I just think we need to do a deeper dive into this, Mr. Chairman. If it were up to me, I mean, I'd be considering referring charges. I think we've got a problem here when we decide that there's some laws that we will obey and some laws that we won't. I don't care who it is, Republican, Democrat, I don't care what office you hold. We need to abide by the laws passed by.
Will the
United
gentleman
States.
yield?
No, I will not yield.
Why would you
Mr.
say
Chairman,
that?
I thank you for the time. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Well,
We're gonna have two more. We're gonna have two more questioners. Then we're gonna have to take a break at the request of the witnesses, a 15-minute break, maybe 20 if we need that. But Chair recognizes Mr. Kassar, and after him, then Mr. Higgins, and we'll proceed with the break. But Chair recognizes Mr. Kassar.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mayor Wu, can you tell us a little bit, just maybe 20 seconds, about how your administration has helped address unemployment, especially amongst youth in your city, which we know is a risk when we have high levels of young people unemployed?
Yeah,
We
fact.
made a commitment, our mayor's guarantee, that any young person in the Boston Public Schools who wanted a paid summer job would get one. And we fulfilled that with the partnership of businesses and companies and organizations throughout the city. Record numbers participating.
Thank you, Mayor Wu. Mayor Johnson, can you tell us a little bit about measures your office has implemented to address the root causes of violence in Chicago?
Thank you for that question. Yes. So first of all, it's great to report that violence is down in the city of Chicago, and it has gone down since I've been in office as a result of a couple of measures. One, we've reopened 3 mental health clinics because we do know that mental health issues, and we are in a very severe mental health crisis. We've also increased the number of youth employment. We have hired almost 28,000 young people for last summer. This year, we have an opportunity to hire up to 29,000 young people. We've also built more homes. Just last year, we've appropriated $11 billion, 37,000 construction jobs in the works for almost 10,000 more affordable units. And we have promoted and hired 200 detectives to increase trust between community and law enforcement to solve the crimes that do occur in our city.
Thank you so much. Mayors, I want to thank you for the hard work you're doing every single day. Just in 40 seconds, you have described building tens of thousands of homes for people that need them, hiring detectives to solve cold cases, building community trust to reduce violence, hiring people to do incredible mental health work, and reducing the youth unemployment rate. That is so much more than what the Republican majority can ever describe having ideas about. And that's why they've dragged you before us today. They want to point the finger at you because they have no plan on how to address housing, no plan on how to reduce costs, no plan on how to actually reduce violence in our communities.
This is going to be
in fact, maybe some of the only plans they have would be to make those issues worse.
Take accountability for
and I know that you all as mayors are doing one of the hardest jobs in this country every single day. You're serving your communities honorably. And they don't want the American people to hear about how Boston has drastically dropped your unemployment rate. They don't want the American people to hear about how Chicago is dropping the rate of violence in the city. But our job is to make sure the American people actually hear the truth. And the truth is that you are pairing a law enforcement response along with a mental health response and a housing response and a jobs response to what's going on in your cities. And that is so critical. Republicans, on the other hand, here are going back to the same old tactic, which is to say, find a vulnerable group of people and let's blame them for everything.
People are evil when they don't clap for
anything bad that happens. Let's go try to point the finger at our political opponents or at a vulnerable person or at a person of color from a faraway place. And that doesn't actually solve real issues for the American people. Republicans and their big boss donors blame immigrants for low wages because they don't want the American people to see the Republican plan to dismantle the NLRB, to dismantle unions, and to never pass a bill raising wages for American workers. They blame immigrants for housing costs because the Republicans are dismantling the Department of Housing and Urban Development and stripping affordable housing funding from this country. They want to distract from the $8 million a day that people like Elon Musk get in federal contracts while they attack hardworking immigrants and while they attack officials that are actually just trying to do their jobs. Mayor Johnson, you have a limited number, I suppose, of jail cells in Cook County and a limited number of law enforcement resources. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I do not have jurisdiction over Cook County jails.
And you want to make sure that when somebody in the city of Chicago calls 911, that they get an appropriate response. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so what I have been hearing all morning from my Republican colleagues is they want the federal government to go tell the city of Denver or the city of Boston or the city of Chicago. No, they want the federal government to be able to call you and take over your police resources or take over your county's jail resources, and you don't even represent the county, for whatever case they might come up with, whether the person is dangerous or not. Instead of having cities determine if somebody is dangerous and needs to be held, instead of having cities say, we want to make sure if you have an emergency that we get somebody to you and don't just send out our police to a call that may not be a priority just because somebody in the federal government wants to go after somebody with no criminal background and that isn't a threat. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, right before I yield back, I just want to thank people that are involved in local government,
You said
city
that
council
already,
members,
man.
neighborhood associations, mayors,
riding these
people who keep
goddamn
our cities running.
Democratic
You
mayors
deserve
that
our
make you
support
look
in making
good,
your
bro.
cities more safe. You deserve
All
our
you doing is
support.
Gentlemen,
being
time's
stressing
expired.
housing
Chair recognizes
instead of
Mr.
hearing
Higgins
this.
from Louisiana.
Quiet, be quiet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You get it, bro.
Let's clarify for America. Mayor Adams, Mayor Johnson, Mayor Johnson, and Mayor Wu, are you here today under the advice of council, and do you have council present? Yes or no?
I want to understand the question. Are
you here today under the advice of council, and do you have council present?
do have council present. I'm here because we were requested to appear.
Did you consult with, did you have council prior to your appearance?
Yes, we did.
Thank you. This is not a trap question. We just want to clarify.
Okay.
You're here under the
All right,
advice of
bro,
council.
just
do you have
answer the
council
question.
present?
Yes, sir.
What are you scared for?
Mayor Johnson,
Council present here because I was invited.
did you counsel before your trip here?
We do have counsel.
Get
but I was
advice
here.
from your council?
Yes.
Okay, then you're under the advice of council.
Yes.
Mayor Wu, thank you.
Thank
Let me
you.
just clarify for
Question, yes or
America.
no?
These mayors are all sanctuary city mayors. But the narrative is no longer comfortable. Because 3 months ago, we were at the tail end of 4 years of millions and millions of illegals coming into our country. It was out of control. The only thing that has happened since then is we had an election in November.
There you go.
And now we're not pulling the curtain back. We have ripped the curtain from the rods. We have revealed to America just how fast we could have secured our border.
There you go,
if
man.
you had an executive that was willing to enforce the law.
Who was
So now we're paying attention to our
Joe Biden's a
municipalities.
fool.
And every one of them is lawyered up. They've changed their narrative. We got example after example. The mayor of Chicago. We must lead with and live by the promise of sanctuary city.
Right.
The mayor of Denver willing to go to jail in defense of
There you
sanctuary
go.
city policy. The list goes on. But the policies of these mayors and our previous president have consequences, real life consequences. I have a family here today, Mr. Chairman, who lost their beautiful loved one. This young man was killed by an illegal immigrant in Texas that
Yeah,
never
after
should have been in our
2025, the
country.
Democratic Party is
He'll
cooked.
never be here
I
to
don't think they
raise
can come
his
back from
daughter,
this.
Anne Marie, to love and cherish and honor and uphold his beautiful wife, Olivia. And you mayors have responsibility, not just to your communities and the citizens you just want to serve, but by extension to the entire republic. And let me clarify, I was a cop for a long time. To honor the jurisdictional authority of another law enforcement agency, you do it every day in your city. Guaranteed, every one of you, if you have an inmate in your city on city charges, and that inmate has a felony warrant from a neighboring county or another county in your state, and that county contacts your city while you have that inmate in detention, and ask you to hold them for them to come pick it up upon release, guaranteed you release that inmate to the county over or to your state police. but you're
That's
not
right,
doing
man.
it for ICE.
That's right.
And ICE is
Power,
responsible
so these people
to
can do their
remove
job.
millions of criminal, hard-edge, criminal illegals. And we've had enough. America's fed up with betrayal of oath, and you'll be held accountable. One of you said you're willing to go to jail. We might give you that opportunity.
Facts.
Good mayor.
And you know who you talk, and you know who he talking to.
One of my colleagues mentioned the children.
You know who he
Oh,
talking
the
to.
children.
Yeah.
Separation
Knock
of
your nose,
children.
buddy.
At any given time in America, there's 750 to 850,000 American citizen parents of minor children incarcerated in our country. If you commit a felony in America, you get arrested and prosecuted and convicted and incarcerated, you can expect to be separated from your children. Well, let me say there's a sunset to that separation, because when you do your time, you'll be released. You can return to your family. This young man will never return to his family.
There you go, man.
And he should have never been removed from his family. If we had a president and heads of our municipalities that were willing to uphold
What about
the
his
federal
life?
law
He ain't gonna
that
never wake up tomorrow, bro. He ain't gonna never be able
America
to hug, smell,
is moving
eat,
into a new era
anything with his family
of
ever
enforcement
again.
of our own laws. Welcome to it. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Very good.
Mr. Chair, I have unanimous consent.
All right.
This is an article from Wired. It is February 18th of 2025. U.S. funding cuts are helping criminals get away with child abuse and human trafficking. Services supporting victims of online child exploitation.
Without objection, so ordered. At the request of the witnesses, the committee will take a 20-minute break. Pursuant to the previous order, the chair declares the committee in recess for 20 minutes.
20-minute break, guys. Oh, that's some BS, guys. We already know what this is. So let's just break this down for a second. All the things that we have now, and then we'll continue. So he completely ignored the questions, guys. When it came down to all the questions, when it came to the sanctuary city law, he completely ignored every single question. He basically said that he will break the law. He will, because here's the thing: if you have criminals that are in your city illegally and you don't report them to ICE, that's a violation of the Constitution. So my thing is this: when is they really going to be held accountable for this? Not just Brandon Johnson, but all of these mayors. You got Eric Adams, who's basically going through multiple charges right now. We don't know if they're real charges or not. But here's the thing, man. When you harbor illegals who do heinous acts like basically, dealing hardcore drugs, assaulting women, robbing people at gunpoint, and all type of things, guys. And I mean, they're basically breaking the law. They can't do that, especially when you are in a position like being the mayor of Chicago, New York, Boston, Denver. Like, come on, guys. This is absolutely ridiculous. Releasing the criminals back on the street, I think they have a really, really, really bad problem with doing that. Seriously, because if you know they're a repeating offender, why do you keep putting them back on the street? I'm not understanding that, guys. Like, am I like in another world when? Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyways, God bless you all, MAGA patriots. Yep. Thank you, guys. Yeah, man. She's a ratchet little. Okay, Ruth. Thank you guys for sticking with me for the first half. I really appreciate that a lot. Stay safe. May God bless and protect you and our Chicago conservative family. Thank you, Ruth. Appreciate that. Anytime. But yeah, like, come on, bro. Like, you got to end it off with Jasmine Crockett. Like, once she start talking, yeah, we need a commercial break. But let's just keep going, man. I mean, I'll answer that one question with the question that he couldn't answer when it came to how much money's been spent on these illegals. We're in a $1 billion deficit now. And we're $3 billion in a deficit because we just basically voted on this $830 million bond. So now we're $3 billion in debt, and you spent over $500,000 on illegal immigrants. That's how much you spent on them. Yeah, when you understand that the Democratic agenda is to destroy the country, everything they're doing, yeah, man, seriously, factual. Did you hear about the Democrats blocking the bill to ban trans from being in women's sports? These people are evil. Evil, sweetheart. I don't even understand. Why would you even want to do something like that? Why do you want men in women's restrooms? That don't even make sense. You don't. And the thing is this, guys, you don't see women trying to fight to get in men's restrooms. That should really be like I just don't understand why people brain cells don't work nowadays. It don't even make sense. Yeah. Yeah, ouch is right. Yeah, Democrats are corrupt, man. These people honestly just all need to be in jail. They all need to be in jail. I don't think there's a court big enough to try what would be the, oh my Lord. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's like biblical end times for sure. Yeah. And it's disgusting how these people don't even understand the consequences of their actions and their choices, guys. And that's what I'm saying. That's right, man. Illegals don't have any rights. Thank you, Aqua. You guys are here illegally, and then you guys are doing murder and grape and dealing hardcore drugs and giving them to children and stuff like that. Nah, bro. Nah. I think they need the death penalty if I'm keeping it a stack. America, baby. They didn't stand up for that child that had cancer. Yeah, man. And they actually made him an honorary Secret Service member. So shout out to them, man, for sure. But the Democrats wouldn't even stand up for a kid who literally beat brain cancer. Huh? If that don't show you that these people are legit vile, disgusting creatures beneath the scum of my feet, I don't know what does. I can't believe Black people are still Democrats nowadays. This is crazy. And now they all doing TikToks and making videos on social media. And social media is hell now. Probably mad as hell now, like the Democrats are so desperate, it's ridiculous. All Democrats need to go and get out of office now and be in jail. Factual. Yeah, anybody that wants to cut off a little girl's breast or a little kid's dong definitely needs to be in prison, and it's not even close to being close. And my thing is, didn't Trump unban TikTok? So didn't he like give all of you liberals your jobs back? You damn creeps. They got out of their playpen and are big crybabies. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Gen Z is voting Republican. And look, man, I'm just speaking for myself here, but I believe Black folks are starting to wake up a little bit, not a lot of it, because you still got these dumbass influencers out here and rappers and stuff that majority Black people still, listen to when it comes to race baiting and things like that. And guys, we damn they got to get rid of the 19th Amendment. That's the only reason why Democrats still got a fighting chance. If you don't know what the 19th is, then look it up, bro. We got to get rid of that ASAP. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to you. They ain't got no skin in the game, bro. They don't have to fight. Okay, guys? They don't have to get into selective service. You guys, I just don't believe that a person who don't put in enough infrastructure or who isn't in a selective service or someone who don't pay taxes should be able to vote. That's just my opinion. Like, you shouldn't have an opinion if you aren't in selective service. You shouldn't get a vote. Or at least it shouldn't be a full one. Because that's the only reason why these Democrats have been winning all of their elections, is because that 19th, man. And honestly, it's like patriots are starting to get tired of this crap. You guys sit up here and whine and complain all day, every day, yet the hardworking people who are still having families out here, by the way, who still have to work, who still have to pay taxes, like have to pay for all this unnecessary stuff, like making rats trans. Like, nah, bro, we're not going for that anymore. Bro said, that's what I'm saying. Bro compared like a carton of eggs to an AK-47 magazine. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. When are you guys going to realize that? You take away first of all, there are more homicides with handguns than assault rifles. So if you look at the homicide rate when it comes to firearms, handguns are basically winning in every category, and it's not even close. So if you guys really wanted to stop the killings and stop the crimes, you would ban handguns first. But, people aren't really smart, so they wouldn't look at the chart and see that assault rifle killings aren't really as common as people think. But handgun killings are very, very common. Yeah, Ruth, yeah. I mean, it's like, look, now, here's the thing. Women, I'm not saying women shouldn't vote, but it can't be a full one. Because it's like, if we got to get in the selective service, that means we are choosing a commander-in-chief that we feel is competent enough to keep us out of wars like Donald Trump. I'm just saying, guys, women ain't thinking about stuff like that. Majority of women voted for Kamala Harris, bro. This lady is literally pro-war. This lady's a communist. Who's fighting in that war? Not y'all. I'm just saying. I'm not finna fight in a war because some stupid-ass cackling woman like Kamala Harris want to be pro-police for the world and stuff like that. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, man. We voting these people in. Are you, wait. Are you in the selective service? I mean, you the exception, but majority of women don't enroll in the selective service. Men don't have an option. When we turn 18, we automatically enrolled in the selective service. Now, I've never seen a woman who didn't want to go into the military, but had to go. If a woman is in the military, that is her full choice. Yeah, they're going to take our sons. Well, that's what I'm saying. If Kamala had won, we'd be at war right now, and they'll be taking people like our sons to war, man. Literally. Mandatory ID voted. I'm a conservative, not selective service. No, selective service means it's basically like you're potentially going to be drafted into the war if there's ever a war in America. That's what selective service means. And I don't think they automatically enroll women in the selective service. And we got to think about it. When it comes to the equality stuff, guys, man, look, men do 90% of the jobs that keep infrastructure running and going, like power plants, construction jobs, architecture, agriculture. We're doing all of this stuff, man. Like if you took women away from all of these jobs, it wouldn't hurt us at all. It wouldn't hurt us literally at all. We will still be like having the world run like have we always been. That's the point though. If women really want equality, women should be able to fight in battle too. But that's the thing, bro. They don't want to be equal. They want to be superior. They don't want to be equal to men. They want to be superior to men. And that's not happening when we do everything. And here's the thing. They always want to sit up here and say we're more educated and we're more this and we're that and we're the third. Steve Jobs and all these, fancy, some of these billionaires didn't even go to college. So why ain't y'all doing anything yet? Like, I mean, you guys have been fighting for equality since the 60s. How's that been going? Like, we had a Steve Jobs and do all of that and this, that, and the third. Where's y'all Steve Jobs at? Like, where's the women inventing shit? Like, what are y'all doing? Like, we can't keep on like playing about this stuff, bro. Women should not do construction, firefight, or Yeah, I mean, tell them that. They the ones that really believe that they can do it, but they don't want to do it. That's the thing. There you go. Yeah, selective service cannot admit females without congressional authority. There you go, man. There you go. And that's a problem when they got the right to vote, but and then they majority vote Democrat. Like, that's cheating. That is cheating, bro. Look at all these damn props they got, man. This is ridiculous. Sorry, guys. I have to check back in. That's what I'm saying. Women have been fighting for equality for a long time, but now the Democrats want men to compete against them. What is going on? Right. So what's the point of the equality? If you guys could just have men put on wigs. I mean, it's not really about women. It's about the safety of our country. And I don't think they understand that. Like, we need the top of the top to defend our country, man. I don't know how long. Okay, have a great day, Ruth. Thank you for joining me and staying with me this long in the live. I really do appreciate that. Let's get back to this.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll probably have a hard out around 3:30. Otherwise, it's the 6 p.m. flight back to Denver today. But yeah, he's around.
There it is. Okay. Yeah, guys. I'm not saying I don't want women to vote, but I mean, it can't be a full one. Wait a minute. What the? Okay, that ended.
Most people are too lazy to do.
All right, guys. So I guess we wait it out. All right, guys. I guess I'll see you back for part 2 whenever it returns. So yeah, guys, because I think they just ended the stream. But yes, guys, I'll see you guys in a minute, and we're gonna give you guys the full breakdown basically later on when I get done watching the full hearing. How sports scholarships gonna work for guys competing against girls? Yeah, they're gonna blow them chicks out of the water, dude. But yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate all the comments and love and support. Appreciate the super chats. And I'll see you guys in a minute. And I'm out of here. Peace.